Okay. Well, pleased to introduce Sheila Clemenson. She is a real BoulderNet favorite, and I'm going to let her introduce herself further. Good morning, Sheila.
Awesome. Good morning. Hi, everyone. I love hearing your introductions. I love getting a sense of who is in the group today. And I know so many of you haven't gone yet. I can see the passion behind this group and supporting and helping people. And I love being connected with that. Um, I'm thoughtful about how we introduce ourselves, right? Because it's like, what is it that people need to know about you to support you and help you? And that is a part of the relationship building. I've been wanting to call networking more relationship building because I think networking is an intimidating word to most people. Relationship building sounds friendlier and nicer. I'm going to say that the majority of what we do is we relationship build when we connect with people and get to know them. And, there is an exchange, absolutely, in how people can support and help you. And I absolutely love how this group supports one another and does that. And you never know who you're going to connect with and who they know. Most of the time, I say that people find a position through an acquaintance of an acquaintance. It is not even somebody that they know well. It's, oh, I talked to this person and they're looking for somebody and I'm going to give your name along, right? Most of the time, if we think that we're connecting with people that are great friends and people that we know really well, sometimes there's some reservation because there's a little bit more investment that they need to make in knowing you. So I want to say that it's important to know who your connectors are. Your connectors are people who know everyone. Think about your social butterflies, think about your connectors, think about your realtors, your insurance people, people that you wouldn't normally know, but they're going to talk to you and they're going to talk to everybody. They know people and they're not concerned about giving people's name and information out and doing introductions. So I think about the unlikely place that you're going to connect with people and find somebody that you know and reach out to those connectors. So that's my first little tidbit of yes, this is something that you need to be thinking out of the box about and do a little bit differently also, especially if you've been stuck. So what am I going to talk about today? When Dawn connected with me, I said, Dawn, I've done some really great presentations here. I'm like, let's just do an ask anything kind of presentation because there are so many things ruminating in people's minds in this job search world, and it can be different from day to day. You might be looking at today and going, what is my problem with job searching today? And maybe you didn't realize that yesterday. So the questions that I have for you to be thinking about is, um, what is it about having a hard time? You know, are you feeling stuck? Are you feeling like you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting anywhere? Are you feeling like you're not sure what you need to be working on or what you need to do? Often I have clients come in and they're like, I'm really stuck. Everything that I'm doing is not working and I need to blow this up and figure this out. I find that most of the time I'm coming in to help people and it's like they're riding the bike up the hill, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm like completely worn out and I'm tired of doing this. And I'm giving them a push up and then they go over the hill and they start coasting down. There's just usually something that somebody isn't doing as effectively or in the best way to support themselves that they just need to overcome and kind of jumpstart to build more momentum. So I want to just set that kind of overview kind of for this conversational style ask anything. Yes, Don asked me, do you have a presentation? Yes, I have a presentation that I can talk from. And maybe talking from it can kind of spark some ideas and get you guys started. But I want to know that if you have a question, raise your hand, just like Trent's doing with the reactions, and we'll see who we can get to. And I'll just have Don manage that, or Trent, or whoever wants to manage that, and tell me who's got a question. Okay. All right, what I need to do is I need to get into my presentation. And I say this presentation loosely, okay, because I really didn't want this to be a presentation about what's important to me. I want this to be a presentation on what's important to you. So I think that where I want to start is from the beginning. Job search strategies, finding your ideal job. It's much like finding your way on a map, and sometimes it's a little bit harder. So yes, I'm throwing some takeaways out there. How to support you and help you with career mapping, in leveraging your talents and strengths, your knowledge, skills, abilities, all of these wonderful things that make up your bullseye. I want to talk about doing new job search strategies and resources so that you can create more momentum in your job search, because that's what's going to get you there. All right, I see a hand already. Jeff, feel free to
Yeah.
interrupt and
Hey,
share.
good morning, everybody. So I went through a major resume revamp earlier this spring, and my resume was very dated. It was pretty productive. I was also taught that PDFs do not travel well with ATS systems. So I went back to doc format. So I've been getting a lot more traction. But what I'm seeing is that recruiters and companies are casting a very, very, very wide net. As I get these interviews, I speak with them and they talk in generals, but then as you go through the interview process, it really comes down to one particular pain point that they didn't voice very early in the process. This manifested with a local company here in Golden, where they had two jobs posted. I was sent over to interview for both jobs. As I read through them, I said, look, you guys don't need two people for this. Hire me. I can do both. You want to set this up as a handoff role, let somebody manage it end to end. What happened 2 weeks later, they deleted the two jobs that were online. They created a new title. They admitted to me they were struggling with the job title. They created a new job title. They combined the jobs and they lowered the pay. So, how to dig in on the real pain point early so I'm not wasting my time.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack in that question. Okay, so what is your main question? What do you want to know?
um, how to avoid coaching companies to find what they're really looking for
Okay.
because they don't know what they're looking for till they see it.
Yes. Okay. So I think that the nature of what's happening right now is we're seeing companies doing more with less. What's happening is people are leaving, people are not being replaced. Jobs as they're defined are changing faster than they can get approvals to change those job descriptions, because many different jobs are being absorbed. And so I think that what as candidates we're starting to see is that job description really a reflection of what it is that you're going to be doing in that job, right? And we have to trust that if somebody's posting a job, they know what they're looking for, and that's the only thing that we have to rely on, right? Now, what I want to say, that's a challenge. That's a challenge for everybody. But what ultimately is the hard piece of that is getting job postings approved goes along with getting a job approved, which is not happening right now in a conservative marketplace, right? So we have to be more adaptable, and we have to perhaps do a lot more and or be a lot more than we used to have to be. And we don't even know what we're supposed to be. So I think that the main thing to really think about with all of this is defining your bullseye. Who are you? What are you bringing knowledge, skills, abilities, talents, strengths to that job that you're applying to? How well do you meet those qualifications, minimum and preferred? And how well do you meet the essential functions of that job that they're looking for you to do. That is the only thing that you have to go on. If that changes, you know, then you have to be nimble with it, and or they have to realize that the people that are looking for that job are the ones who hopefully match more of that job. If they're looking for a unicorn that has several different skills that don't typically go together, they're going to have a hard time finding somebody, and they have to strategize what skills are going to take more of a priority. So I'm stating the nature of what's happening right now. What is the solution? I don't know. I think that, you know, what you need to do is you need to be really clear, Jeff, on what your bullseye is and how well you can move outside of your bullseye and dance and being adaptable with other types of areas of working within the career family that you might be in. And then decide how much you want to be expansive versus how specialized you want to be in what you're doing, and how well you can stretch into something and learn and be challenged by that versus how much you need to be just in a particular area. So I think that, you know, we all need to be thoughtful about how much can we stretch our skill sets to meet the needs of a company. How much do we want to do that? And if you find yourself in an interview where you're like, I don't think that we're talking about the same job, or if you find that you're not being considered for a job, it's possible that it could have changed. It's possible that it could be a ghost position. It's possible that it's being filled by one other person doing 3 jobs within the company. You know, there's so many different things about that. I don't know if this is helpful, but I think the more adaptable and expansive we can be within our skill sets, the more competitive we are going to be as a candidate in this particular job market. Now, I don't know if that helps you in defining those things, because you can't know what you don't know, Jeff, you know?
Yeah, it's more, I don't have any trouble flexing and expanding into different roles. I've been in many different roles, but the company will say, okay, well, you don't have enough maintenance experience. And that's their one pain point that comes out, you know, 3 weeks down the road.
Yeah.
So they're going the other direction. They're going from a wide net down to, oh, well, we really need somebody that can program Python or whatever. It's so far specific.
Yeah, so this is what I'm gonna say. They're looking for their unicorn, and it's an employer's market, and they can. If you are not their unicorn, it's not you. Okay? And you, unless you start seeing the pain points and what people are looking for, and you upskill in those areas, which you're never going to get to the expert level that they're looking for, then you need to come up with another strategy of what a plan of attack. And, you know, and I'm happy to talk with you about that. I offer complimentary sessions. You can go into my calendar and see, and I'll give that information later. But you have to come up with another strategy. And this is what we're seeing in tech across the board. They're looking for their unicorns, and they're not hiring anybody that isn't. But I also want to say that the person who is going to be hired for the job is, who do they need right now, not who do they need a year from now. So that is something you have no control over unless you are that person that has what they need right now. If you can find out what that is, and then that becomes an area you can upskill in, then you're a step ahead and you can try to move in that direction. But upskilling is a powerful thing to be thinking about right now. And we can go into more detail about that, but I want to open this up to other questions too. I'm hoping that helps to some extent, Jeff, but you're hitting on a question that is not a solvable situation. You're hitting on a frustration that a lot of people are having right now. Yeah.
Okay.
May I add just real quickly, Jeff? I would fully utilize in your interviews the portion where they say, do you have any questions? And I would try and narrow down what are you guys looking for in the next month? What challenge needs to be solved right away? What challenges this role need to be solved in a year? And you might be able to draw from them, or even asking, what specific skill set are you looking for in this candidate? And you might be able to draw out of them giving you the answer in that first phone call interview or in-person interview, just to try and speed up, are you a good fit? So I'd really utilize the question portion.
I love that, Amy, and that is managing the interviewer. And sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I was going to say is, I mean, think about, I mean, Sheila, you mentioned the words A, nimble, and B, relationship, right? I mean, right. A lot of companies think in terms of the employment relationship, but that's not the only kind of relationship you can have with them, right? I mean, you know, if they think, well, you're not exactly the right fit, right? Well, maybe start as a consultant, right? If you've got a short-term need, maybe you're not our long-term solution because you need Python or whatever they're, right? So we're not, you know, but you could solve our short-term problem. Cool. Bring me on as a consultant, right? While you're there as a short-term consultant, that gives them an opportunity to fall in love with you and to find out you are nimble and you can learn Python. You're a bright guy, whatever, right? It also gives you an opportunity to find out if there's someone that you want to have a long-term relationship with. But at least now you're in the door. You've resumed your income stream, and it'll again, it allows you to evaluate a relationship. So there's other kinds of relationships other than just the employment relationship. So
yeah, what I want to say right now, though, that's happening across the board with employers, and this is something that I'm sharing that's really hard for everybody to hear. It is an employer's market right now. You guys are feeling it and you guys know it. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. And they are hiring who they need. They are being conservative. They are not spending a lot of money. People, they are letting go of their top producing, qualified, higher level, C-suite, senior level director people, and top sales people. I do not see this in the work that I do. Okay. I have never seen companies laying off their top salespeople that have been there 20 years. I have not seen C-suite people being laid off at the rate that I'm seeing this right now. Well, so what does that mean? They're looking for who they're looking for, and that's it. Now, contract positions and staffing positions, I want to piggyback on that and say that comes out of a different budget. Okay, so I have a lot of clients who have found their way in the door getting a staffing or a contracted position to do the work that they want to do right now or to be valuable to a company or an organization. So what I want to say right now is when budgets are on hold, you cannot hire anybody. You still have ghost positions because you want to keep your pipeline full in case that position is going to become available. Okay, so that's what you're seeing a lot of. There's a lot of ghost positions because companies don't want to lose their candidates if they get approved for positions to hire. Hopefully that starts happening in January, February, new fiscal year. So you guys are in a great place looking for those positions right now. Okay. What I will say about that, contract staffing positions come out of a different budget. We need this right now budget. So no, that's not a payroll budget that needs to be approved. That is a great opportunity to find contract positions that are focused on getting people into companies to fill these different needs that they might have. People might not need to be as completely upskilled because there might not be certain people available. So I want to say that, there are contract companies that specialize in different types of work. And I would say, that's a good avenue to, go down, the research hole to kind of see that. So I do want to say that sometimes you have to accept a 6-month contract position to be successful and to find your way into the company at the beginning of next year. Okay, so that's just something that I'm seeing right now. I don't want to be Debbie Downer in any way, you guys. I think that there's a lot of ways to problem solve and a lot of ways to be strategic and intentional and to get yourself in front of the people that you need to be in front of. But I also have to be realistic what is happening in the job market right now. And it's not the same job market that it was a year or two ago. I'm seeing my clients getting interviews, their first interview 6 to 8 weeks after they've started job searching. Typically, my clients have had 2 really good offers within 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, so this process has slowed down. My clients who are doing relationship building and networking are finding positions within 4 to 6 months, and sometimes they are contract positions. I will say that the majority of people are finding positions within 6 months to a year. And that is the more professional and the higher level the position and the more money that you're going to be making. They're not hiring as many of those people and you're competing against more. So what does that mean? That means that we need to leverage your bullseye and what makes you unique in the most strategic and intentional way possible. And that is how I work with my clients. It's not about casting the net too wide and being everything to everybody. It's about who am I to who needs me. Sometimes you have to do the research on your side before you put yourself out there. And so I want to say that if you don't want to spin your wheels quite as much, you are going to target and tailor that company that you're going to be an ideal fit for. And you're also going to look to see, are they hiring people? How are they doing right now? You know, how can I get an in? You know, I mean, and so I just say strategic and intentional is really the way that you want to go. You can be expansive from there. Sometimes it is good to cast the net really wide if you can do a lot of different things and see who is going to connect with you. But I want to say, you know, it is not unusual to apply to 200 jobs right now and get 2 or 3 interviews or maybe even phone calls. Okay, so this is the job market that we're in right now. We have an exceptionally high professional skill base who knows what they're doing, who make very competitive candidates out in the market. Tech has laid people off, finance has laid people off. There is a higher level of competition in the candidate pools right now, and this is national and not just regional. So what does this mean? Hybrid positions, in-person positions. If people are looking to bring people back into the workplace and you look regionally about where it is that you can work, that's a really great place to start, because if they need you physically in person, that might be a place that you need to go right now. You know, you might ideally want a remote position. So does everybody else in the United States and globally. So let's look at who are you competing with, and let's see how we can narrow that candidate pool and make that candidate pool smaller for yourself so that you can be the most competitive candidate within that candidate pool. So I really like to encourage my clients to work smarter rather than harder. And sometimes working smarter rather than harder is sometimes compromising a little bit more of what it is that you're looking for to get your needs met sooner. And so I do want to say that in this particular job market, I love the ideal of getting your ideal dreamy job. I love the idea of getting into your ideal company. And I do think that, you know, that is something to work towards and aspire to, while at the same time, I recognize how much time can you buy yourself? Do you need to put food on your table yesterday? Has your severance run out? Are you, you know, putting too much on your credit cards right now? These are all the questions that we need to ask about how much do you need to compromise what it is that you really want, right? So, and now with saying that, there are some industries that are booming that you would never even know that they're having a problem. So what I also like to look at is how do we transition some of your skills into an industry that needs you, that could not normally hire you and get you as a candidate because they may be incredibly motivated to get you. And how do we shift and how do we adapt and be nimble to that? So I like to brainstorm, and I definitely like to, play devil's advocate with a lot of different things. But, I'm not telling any of you anything that you don't know. And I know that sometimes we want to share frustrations with that, and that's okay. I'm looking for pain points and maybe some opportunities to kind of brainstorm a little bit with you. So do other people have some pain points? And Jeff, thank you for sharing your pain points. They're really freaking real. And that is what a lot of people are dealing with right now. And I'm just, unfortunately, there isn't an easy answer with that one. But I do love what Amy said about clarifying in the interview what they need, because you can help them do that if you get the interview, right?
Thank you.
Lev, Eyal,
Eyal, yes, thank
Eyal.
you.
I'm sorry, I butchered your name. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm kind of used to it, but it's been my best icebreaker. Thank you. So the name is Eyal Lev, and this is my first time here. I was introduced to this group by a very nice lady called Julie Cooley, who's already here as well. So thank you, Julie, for this. Um, so I just like you said, and I was listening through that. I was exactly part of that. I'm in sales management, top performers, surpassing my goals through the years, and all of a sudden came out of left field. So, and I was part of a reduced force of like, I think it was like 20-25% of us. Regardless, I have a tip and then a question. So, according to what you mentioned, whether I'm getting a screening call or I'm even already with a hiring manager, I always ask if the position that they have is to replace somebody or is it a brand new position that they already open. And it makes me, as you mentioned, whether they're looking somebody to come in and hit the ground running, and do I match everything, or is it a brand new position that they open? Then I got more leeway to convince them. So that's my tip. My other thing is you mentioned, we're a long time past severance and so on. The thing that gets me the most when I'm applying, they're always asking what's my salary expectations. So if there's room to add characters, I will always ask, I will put something that I'm flexible in a way that I can kind of, sorry for my language, I could bullshit my answer.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, those fields require only a number.
Yes.
And in Colorado, you can see the range.
Mhm.
My dilemma is I always say to myself, I'm worth a lot. I want to put the top range.
Yes.
But sometimes I feel like if I put the top, they might just stay away from me because they don't want to spend that much. So
Yes.
that's my dilemma at the moment.
Yeah, let me summarize for you. I love your tip. Also, please take Eyal's tip seriously because that's a good one. Let's talk about compensation. From an HR perspective, the midpoint of the range is 50%. That is fully competent in the job. You can hit the job running, no problem. That is at least 5 years of experience in the job. If you have less experience in that job, you're at a 0 to 25 up to 50%. And if you have a lot of years of experience for that job, you are from 50 to 100%. You might be more 75 to 85% of that range. Okay, so when I'm going to evaluate and give you an offer, if I'm doing compensation the way that I should in HR, I'm going to look at where do you fall and competency in that range? How much experience are you bringing? And that is the pay range I am going to be looking at for you. So so I think that if you really think about how well you fit that job, you could do it in your sleep with your eyes blindfolded and your hands behind your back. You're going to be at a probably 85 to 90%. I would rarely ever put the top end of the range. If you think that you're at the top end of the range, go 90 to 95%. Because once they redline you at the top of the range, you're not getting anything above that, right? If you're stretching into that job, put the midpoint. But I also say that companies are offering less. Some of my clients are taking $50,000 less than they would have had to take 2 years ago. So, where I'm going with that is you might look at that range and go, I can't take a job for that kind of money. And I had a client just accepting a job at half of the salary that she had been getting because she needs a job by November. Now, she has 2 more months, but she doesn't want to wait, right? So, the real world that we're living in is sometimes people are making more of a compromise, but I want to say don't compromise your value when you're putting that pay range in. So, I hope that helps. It is about asking for what you want. But yes, if you put the top end of the range, they're going to be like, who else is he competing against who's willing to take less? Right? So I think just be smart though, but like, don't sell yourself short. Don't go for the low end of the range if you can do that job exceptionally well. But if you're stretching yourself into that job, you're not quite at the midpoint yet. So maybe you go 45%, or you get close. But I also want to say that we all know the minimum that we can take. You don't want to go beyond that. And so, I work with my clients a lot with that. So I hope that helps.
It sure does. I appreciate it. It's really quick follow-up. At what point are they actually looking at that field? Is it the filtering process or is it after I interviewed? When do they look at it?
It's before you interview. It's one of the fit questions that they're probably looking at as they're screening you. So if I'm going to say, okay, I have this budget that I'm going to be paying this person, and this is what I'm willing to do. I'm going to, if I'm really interested in somebody, I could call them and say, I can't offer you more than this. And where this comes from, you guys, is if someone's doing their integrity in HR, they are going to make sure that they are not paying you more than the most experienced person that they've got in that department. Because I am going to be in my integrity and I'm going to do an internal equity review of my staff. And I'm going to say, I can't pay you I can't pay you this 150,000 if I'm paying the other person 135. Or, I can't pay you 200 if I'm paying this one 175. Right? And so sometimes it becomes a part of that. Unless you're in a position that is higher than that person. But if you're in a position similar, then I'm going to be looking across the whole organization. If you're a senior director, I'm going to look at the other senior directors and how much experience they have in my company. And I'm going to be like, you're going to be stuck in this place, right? Now, that can be different based on how hard it is to find somebody who has a lot of technical skills and different things like that. That's where not every position is equal, right? So you just have to really be thoughtful about that when you're in HR and you're really looking at how hard is it to find this person right now. Yeah. Thank you. That incredibly thoughtful. I hope that was helpful for a lot of people. It's really hard. You don't want to undersell yourself. Never undersell yourself, but really you have to just breathe through going at the top end of a job, unless they are major league lowballing. If they're major league lowballing, go for the top of the job.
Sheila,
Yeah.
this is Carol. What I'd like to truly understand in this new world of hiring is there a sheet of information, or can you share with us how and what is ATS and how it's used in recruiting and HR and those hiring folks? I don't really understand. I always thought, and again, previously, you put your resume in there, hopefully it's a nice one, it's correct spelling, everything.
Yeah.
But now it almost seems like some good candidates are being bypassed because they may not know how to do it or have not done it correctly.
Okay, Carol, I'm going to get to that. Your question is next. I want to get to Anne really quick because she's had her hand raised. And so I want to just ask you, Anne, what do you want to cover?
Yeah, two quick ones. First one is going back to the previous question about salary range, putting in something along the lines of, competitive salary for this position in this market and leave it at that. Is that okay, or is that just going to irritate people?
It won't be okay if they're asking for a number. Most of the time, they
And
want
if
a
the
number.
if the field allows for characters versus
Yes.
forcing numbers, then it's
Yes.
okay or no?
Yes. If the field allows you to do that, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question is, I'm gonna guess that it might be on the minds of some of these other people, and just wondering about the age factor. I'm just getting started, so I have not necessarily experienced this yet, but just kind of curious. I feel like, product management, okay, a bunch of 30-year-old tech bros, I'm up against sort of thing. And I
Yes.
mean, I know I'm good. I know I have years of wisdom and experience, but how does that get addressed?
Okay. Here's my answer in a nutshell. Ageism exists. It exists in some industries more than others. If you're in IT, you're old if you're 35. Marketing, same thing. There are some industries where you are never going to be young enough. It doesn't matter how old you are. Okay. But I want to say that's not what you're going for. If you have experience, you are going for experienced positions. You are going for positions with a responsibility level that holds space for your experience. Yes, there is ageism. And, but I also want to say that we find the lens, we find what we're looking through with the lens that we're viewing the world with. So I also want to say that I'm an advocate for not selling yourself short. And I'm also an advocate for not thinking that everybody's discriminating against you, right? Because if we go in with those thought processes, we create what we are looking for. I have had specific clients who have come up with that on their own, and I've opened the door with people that were no way discriminating against them. And so I want to say that you're going to find what you're looking for. You also need to align with industries that respect and hold a lot of value for people who have experience. And I do want to say sometimes it's a money thing. Sometimes people who are older, who have more experience, make more money, and they might say, I can find somebody that has 3 to 5 years experience and I can pay them $70,000. I don't have to have somebody with 5 to 10 to 7 to 10 years of experience that I'm going to pay them a lot more than that. So it might look like discrimination or it might look like ageism, but it's not. It's what level of competency do I need to do this position? And so I want to say that you need to align yourself with the level of responsibility and everything that you're bringing to that position and what it needs. Now, the drawback is what I told you about senior level people getting laid off right now. There are more of them to compete against with right now because they were holding the senior level positions. How can I get rid of $5 million? I'm going to cut these people, and this is going to look really good to sell my company. That's what's happening right now. You guys all know that. But I also think that there are some government, higher education, healthcare. There are some industries that you can never be too old. And I'm going to tell you, if you pivot and you try to go to some of those, if you can be creative, you're going to be awesome. If you're going to be going into tech, this is just something you're going to be dealing with. If you're going to go into marketing, this is going to be something that you're going to be dealing with. It's because there is an oversaturation of very young, incredibly talented people that you're up against. Does that all make sense? It's not simple.
Absolutely. No, it totally makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's perfect.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Ann. I want to talk about the applicant tracking system. So thanks for bringing that up, Carol. Applicant tracking systems. What do we know? What do we not know? Well, Every different company might have a different kind of applicant tracking system. There's an applicant software system that manages their candidates, that manages their application process. Okay, some companies, Top Edge, they have the most sophisticated applicant tracking systems, and it's going to screen out what they don't need by what they program into that system if it's working effectively. Okay, what I want to say is any of you in IT that know software systems, they don't always do what you think that they're going to do. Let me tell you, they don't. I worked in HR, and there's certain things, you know, it wouldn't accept, you know, PDFs. It would only accept Word document resumes. And then it didn't look all pretty when you cut and pasted and you put it in there, or when you uploaded it or whatever, right? So I think it's only as good as the software system that they're using. The parameters, yes, they're going to program ideally what they're looking for and what they're screening out. In a more competitive job market, they're looking for their preferred qualifications before they're looking at their minimum. The more preferred qualifications that you meet for a position, the more likely you're going to get a interview or a screening interview. Okay, so in this particular job market, if you are a position that is having a hard time because there's a lot of competition, the more competitive that you are as a candidate, you have to make that known in your resume and in your application. So you want to look at those preferred qualifications, and you want to make sure that those preferred qualifications are in your resume and they are in your application. They need to be in both. And also, you know, paying attention to exactly what they're asking you to do in the application process is really important. If they ask you to upload a Word document or a PDF, you need to do that. A rule of thumb is the more simple the resume, the more likely you are going to be seen. No columns, no tables, no pictures, no making it look pretty. Quite honestly, yeah, you can make it look good with using a little bit of color and things like that, but you want to make sure that you're having enough keywords, buzzwords, that you have the certifications you need, that your degrees are showing up in there, that you are showcasing some of the skills and the functional headings of the responsibilities that you're going to be doing and speaking their language. So what do I use for that? There's a few tools that you can use. There is jobscan.co, which is, they have a $0 program for like a bare minimum thing. Otherwise, it's about maybe $40 a month. And this is, I'm going to say, if you are applying to large companies, this is your biggest concern. How are they going to screen those number of people? They need to have really good applicant tracking systems. If you're applying to smaller companies, they don't have as much money to spend on these programs, so you might be able to get away with more. So, you know, I mean, you think you need to be thoughtful, you know, are you being directed to Talio? Are you being directed to an applicant tracking system, or are you just putting in something on their website? So I really do think that bringing in more of those keywords and buzzwords. I also think a really important thing is at the top of your resume under your profile statement, put actively applying for, actively seeking, and the position title of that job in your resume, because that's going to help you if they're using the job title to screen you. Okay, thanks, Don, for putting that in there. Tagcrowd.com is a way that you can do word clouds to see different words that might be more used. But I also want to remind you that, you know, sometimes they call things new things that you haven't used before. So one of the, let's just say one of the tools that I've used, let me get out of here. One of the tools that I've used before is, and I've done a presentation on it before, is called the job framework. So I'm gonna make this available to you guys in my presentation. I'm gonna make it available as a PDF for you so that you can see some of these things, okay? But what I want to say about doing a job framework exercise is a job framework exercise is actually creating the job description of the job that you want, but it's using perhaps 10 different jobs that are very similar and cutting and pasting and putting them in a particular format. I can make that available to you. I'm perfectly happy doing that. It's an assignment that I give my clients. What is really important about this is that when you go through this document that's a template, you might start seeing words and phrases that become a little bit popular in a lot of different jobs, like the ones that you're looking at. And it's really good to start pulling those terms and those particular words into your resume. That could be in a professional skills section at the top. That could be under functional headings that you might be covering. And so I just want to say that, you know, use that to your advantage to make sure that you're beefing up what you're doing in that job so that someone doesn't have to interpret your resume. Ale, you're talking about AI and evaluating how the job descriptions aligns with your resume. That's fantastic. The AI is really a thing that can help you kind of hone that down and pull that in. You can use AI to do a job framework for you for particular jobs, and they can pull that information in as well. AI, some people are using ChatGPT. That's probably one of the most common. There's Cloud, there's Gemini. There is an app that one of my clients has been using that is called pi.ai, where you can actually talk into the app from your phone and it can bring up some different things too. So I'll list them in here and you can kind of explore them. I think that, you know, AI is a tool that we can use to help us better align with positions that we're looking for. It can be a great tool to add some of these keywords to your resumes. It can be a great tool to get more clear about how to start something, how to start a cover letter, how to start working more with your resume and beefing up what you're putting in it, how to pull from other job postings and pull the most important things out of it. You can use it for interview questions now. What you can't use it for is you can't use it for showcasing your demonstrated ability and what you have done in your job. So I want to say that you still have to do something with it. And you can't use it in a way that is going to talk about things you haven't done before. So, you know, I think that, you know, you can use it as a tool, but you absolutely have to align that with what you're all about. I'm looking at what somebody said here, contrarian. I'm looking to hire experienced people. You have a pool of very talented young developers, neurodivergent. Basically, what's that means? They cannot stay focused on a task. Applicant with 10 or more employers in the last 8 to 10 years. That's not explainable by the job market. That's indicative of a person who is always out for the next advancement. Yes, that is one way of looking at it, Ryan. And, you know, I'm glad that your company is looking for people who have more longevity. In the tech world, there is a rule of thumb that says if you're not moving every 2 years, you're not growing and developing and learning something new. So I want to say that it's not always about getting ahead, but sometimes it can be about not learning to stay up on top of skills because you have to use them in order to grow and develop in them. Sometimes companies aren't moving as fast as technology, so people are finding the technology to move with. So I will say sometimes we're seeing that. They're not always leaving to get promoted. They're leaving to increase their skill sets. However, there are some people who are leaving to get promoted. And I want to say that our younger generations are wanting to see a promotion in 2 to 3 years. And if you're wanting to retain people, career paths are very important for HR to be working on now. Because unless you have something that is going to keep people there from an employee engagement perspective, it's going to be hard to keep people for that amount of time now. Does that help? I'm just giving you kind of my my 2 cents about that. Okay, I'm looking at time. We're at 10:32. Yeah. How to get a legit WFH job. What does WFH mean? I know what WFT means.
Work from home. Work from home.
Or
Work from
WTF.
home.
I know what that means. What does WFH mean? Work from home. Work from home. Okay. A legit work from home job. I'm going to tell you, there are more scams happening now than ever. Indeed is one of the biggest places that is being scammed, and their senior level managers being scammed. Okay. I want to say going directly to a company, going directly to the company websites, going to more legitimate. LinkedIn is a legitimate site. Okay. There's a lot of screening that is happening in LinkedIn, but I'm still going to say that LinkedIn is being used for scams still. Okay. So I want to say work from home jobs are out there. Working nomads, I think it's with an S, workingnomads.com is a highly technical working from home job search site that you might look at. National Labor Exchange, NLX, has a lot of jobs that you can screen by remote only. And that is a very reputable site as well. National Labor Exchange is a very excellent site to use to really see these legitimate work from home positions. Does anybody else have anything? My gosh, it's been a robust, really awesome conversation. I'm sure that we didn't approach nearly half of the concerns that you're having, but I really wanted to make sure that we touched on some of the good ones that are going to at least help you. Any last thoughts?
Wow. I feel like we should let you go. That was like every word you said was seemed useful. So, and you obviously have insights to what's going on these days. So we really appreciate that. I think I'll stop the recording, and then and we'll let you depart if you want to.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can
I just
still,
want to say,
yeah.
you know, the resources and the relationship building and the connecting that you're doing is one of the #1 things that you can do. People help people get positions, right? And so I really want you to just recognize that, you know, coming to this group today and connecting with people and putting your name on the spreadsheet, I am going to be looking through the spreadsheet and seeing if there are any connections that I have for anyone. So I definitely want you to know that I'm looking at that. So anyway, thank you for your time today. And I'm sure there are a million questions from where we left off, but I'm really glad that I could have some of your time today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sheila,
thank you very
what is